He was given ample opportunity too, Joe, to dig the knife into his opponent, Joe Biden.
Let me ask you a direct question. No, I'm going to ask you a direct question about Joe Biden. Is Joe Biden senile?
I don't want to say that. I say he's not competent to be president. And you know why I won't lose? Because the country, in the end, they're not going to have a man who's shot. He's shot. He's mentally shot. Let him come out of his basement, go around. I'll make 4 or 5 speeches a day. I'll be interviewed by you. I'll be interviewed by the worst killers that hate my guts. They hate my guts. There's nothing they can ask me that I won't give them a proper answer to. Some people will like it. Some people won't like it.
I agree with that.
But look,
answer the questions.
Let Biden sit through an interview like this. He'll be on the ground crying for mommy. He'll say, Mommy, Mommy, please take me home.
Well, we've asked him for an interview, sir.
He can't do an interview. He's incompetent.
And then later on he goes on to say Biden doesn't even know he's alive. Look, and being frank, there has been no shortage of Biden blunders. Have a quick look at this.
To be clear, I'm not going nuts.
To the words united, to the number 30330, 30330, or 303-330, or BOO, wait, but you got it.
That saves billions of gallons of gasoline. I mean, billions of I think it's $2.3 billion worth of, $500 billion in savings and 2-point-something billion metric tons of CO2 going in the air. Well, folks, eliminate one tax loophole out of $1.6 trillion worth, $1.4 trillion worth. Out of $1.4 billion. It's hard to even say it, it's so much. And by the way, it's cost a lot of money. It cost about $740 billion over 10 years.
No wonder they tell him to stay at home. Is he senile, Joe?
No, I don't think he's senile. And look, I would never doubt someone's mental capacity unless there was some hard evidence that would suggest otherwise. So that's my starting point. But look how blessed Australia is to have really competent, articulate politicians.
True.
I mean, Chris, every day you must be sitting there and saying, thank God they all know the numbers and they never make misstatements. Because, look, in politics now, it's hard work.
Yeah.
You know, you have so much data, you have so many figures thrown at you. I'm a bit forgiving of Joe Biden in that respect. I mean, he's 77. He's running for the most grueling office in the world. Donald Trump's mid-70s. He is in the most grueling office in the world. And
the scrutiny is immense. The scrutiny is immense here in Australia, as you know, and the scrutiny is even more immense in the United States of America.
Oh, I mean, I've regularly been at events with Donald Trump or in circumstances with Donald Trump where the cameras are absolutely everywhere. The only place you don't have cameras is in the middle of the golf course, and that's when you've got at least 20 buggies with about 60 snipers from the Secret Service, and it's not a restful period, I can tell you. But even then, you've got White House photographers, so they live in bubbles, and I think, look, it is the narrative that Donald Trump is going to run in the lead up to the election. What is the state of Joe Biden's mind? And that will put pressure on Joe Biden to come out and do interviews, to engage with people. And there are 3 scheduled debates that will go for at least 1.5 hours each. And that will be a telling moment in the presidential campaign.
Oh, yeah.
If Joe Biden stands up, the American people will accept he's able to do the job. If he stumbles, then it could completely change the dynamics of the election race.
Spot on. Now, in this same interview, he dismissed his bad poll numbers. Now, I've got to say, the fact of the matter is his bad poll numbers have been slightly improving in recent weeks. And he talks about enthusiasm for Trump. Here he is.
There's a number you don't mention. It's called the enthusiasm number. The enthusiasm for Trump is through the roof.
I have mentioned it.
Even higher than last time. The enthusiasm for Biden is non-existent. Everyone knows he's shot.
But the enthusiasm against you
that's okay. That's his only shot. I mean, that's his only shot. I agree.
I never think it's very good to talk about yourself in the third person, but Trump gets away with it somehow.
Well, he does, and it's a really interesting indicator, and it matters here in America. It's not really a big indicator in Australia because we have compulsory voting. But in the United States, you have voluntary voting, and the enthusiasm of your base really matters because that can make a difference about whether you go out to vote or not. And there are a couple of things that are worth noting at the moment. The first is that in key states, there have been more Republican registrations to vote over the last few months than there have been Democrat registrations to vote. That's a telling statistic that hasn't been out there, and it reflects the enthusiasm for Trump over the enthusiasm for Biden. And the second key factor, and these are just a couple of things to bear in mind, Chris, the second key factor is if the universities are closed here on polling day, all of those students will go back to where they live permanently and will vote where they live permanently rather than in the key states where the universities are. And that can have a material impact on the outcome of the election as well. So I think this next election will have more mechanical issues, and Trump flagged that and Biden flagged that over the weekend about mail-in voting or postal voting as we call it in Australia, voter registration. All those things are going to come into play, which would suggest it's going to be a really complicated process in the lead up to the final result.